And just for point of reference, in this first one, which term am I talking about then? The negative 8. Okay. Then what we did is we multiplied it by itself, which is another way of saying what? Okay, so we're going to take half of the coefficient of the x term. We're going to number 2. We're going to square it. And write it down. Notice, when I take half of am I writing it down? No, I'm taking half, I'm squaring it, and I'm writing it down. Then, 3, the last step is factor the perfect square trinomial. I'll call it a perfect square tri. Factor, and that's factoring that we've done in last unit. Factor the perfect square trinomial. All right, so let's try it. I'm going to just do 3 examples. Now here's the deal. Yesterday we used all even numbers because when you divide a number that's even in half, isn't it a nice number? Yeah. Okay. And we couldn't have half of an x like as an algebra tile, for instance. Today, we're not going to always have even numbers, but don't we have a calculator? Can't you divide by 2 and square it if you have to? Okay. All right, here we go. Take the half of the coefficient of the x term. The coefficient of the x term is negative 8. What is half of that? 4. Okay. Square it and write it down. Careful, by the way, that's actually a negative 4, isn't it? But here's the deal. What happens when you square negative 4? Parentheses, negative 4 squared is still 16. Okay, write it down. So I'm going to write plus 16. And now it's a perfect square trinomial, so factor it. What does that factor into? Yeah, x minus 4, and I'm going to write it as x minus 4 squared. I have completed the square. I've made it a square. All right, let's try the next one. Take half of the coefficient of the x term. 3.5. All right, 7 divided by 2, 3.5. Square it. And write it down. What do we get? Okay. Now, in our heads, here's what we got to remember. What is this going to be? X plus what? Good. Because the 3.5 times the 3.5 gave us the 12.25. All right. Next one. Negative 13. So I take negative 13 divided by 2. Negative 6.5. I square it. If you're going to use, retype it in, you're going to want to use a parentheses. I'm going to just hit squared. You should get 42.25. Okay? So I'm going to square it, and I wrote it down. Can somebody tell me then, what would its factored form be? X minus 6.5. Nice. Okay, do you have a question so far? Now, you might be wondering, well, why are we doing this all of a sudden in the form, when we're doing forms? Well, x minus h squared. Where do you see x minus h squared up there on the board? For which form? So the reason why we're doing this is we're going to try to get to vertex form. But to get to vertex form, one of the pieces is I have to have an x minus, or it could be an x plus, correct? So vertex form of a parabola is a is x minus h squared plus k. Remind me again, what is the vertex of that then? Yep, so h comma k would be the vertex then. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to use completing the square to do it, but we don't want to change the parabola at all. We want to make it the same parabola. So what we kind of do is we kind of scoot things around in order so that we can have this squared here. Okay? So, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to put parentheses around the first two terms, not terms, terms. Leave space. We're going to put parentheses around the first two terms, leave space. I'm going to show you what I mean by that, okay? Look at number 1. I'm not going to change the problem now. I'm going to write y equals. This is supposed to be a plus. I'm going to do x squared plus 4x. Have I changed anything yet? I'm going to leave some space right here because I'm going to do something there. Minus 6. So have I changed the problem at all? No, I've just left some space, and that space is going to allow me to complete the square. Okay, so that's what I mean by put parentheses around the first two terms, leave space. Okay, number 2. You are going to complete the square. Didn't we write those directions down above if you forgot? Okay. Complete the square. And third, these kind of two go together. Bobby, are you having a hard time seeing? Which one? Complete the square. Put parentheses around the first two terms, leave space. If you need to move over there, if that's easier for notes, that's fine with me. When you complete the square, here's the deal. You're going to be adding something onto the parabola. We don't really want to change the parabola. So what we do is we put it in here, and we take it off the back, so we don't change the value. So what I'm going to write down is we're going to subtract what we added off the end. And we do that so we're not changing the actual value of the parabola. Okay. In a different color, let's do it with the first one, so you can see what I mean. I already did the parentheses. Did you guys do that already? Okay. Now I'm going to complete the square. So what am I going to do? Look above. What does it say above? Take half. Okay. Which is 4.
So 2.
And then square it, which is 4, and we're going to add it on. The only difference here is we just changed this by a +4. In order not to change the value of the parabola, I'm going to do a -4. So here's the deal. Did I really change this? I added 4 and subtracted 4. What's 4 minus 4? What's 4 minus 4? 0. I haven't changed it. All I did is rearrange some numbers. I put them in different spots. Okay? How did I get the 4? Take half of the coefficient of the x term. Yep. Square it and write it down. Okay? Alright. So then, Cody, how would you factor x squared plus 4x plus 4 then? Cody G. How do you factor that? Come on, we were just doing this. No problem. X squared plus 4x plus 4. What does that factor into? Mitch? X squared plus 4x plus 4. What does that factor into? X plus 2 squared. Okay. Now, isn't this vertex form? What is the vertex of this, by the way? What, we just made it into vertex form. What is the vertex? Yep. Which one comes first? But it's not positive. It would be -2, -10. Alright, let's try another one. Put parentheses around the first two terms. Leave some space. Do that, please. We're going to complete this square. What should go here?
1 plus 1.
Yep. Clay, how did you get +1?
Because you take half of 2x.
Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Very nice. I have a +1 here. To keep the equation the same, I write a -1 here. Because +1 minus 1 is 0, right? Now I factor it. What's x squared plus 2x plus 1? How do I factor it? X plus 1 parentheses squared minus 2. Here's the deal, because if I tried to factor this right away, I wouldn't get this. That's why I have to do the completing the square part. And my point is I want to get to vertex form. You can't just randomly factor it. It has to be a perfect square trinomial to factor it this way. What is the vertex of this?
-1,
Nice. -1, -2. Number 3. So notice these are all evens. We're going to do some odds in a second. Alright, here we go. We are going to put parentheses around the first terms, leave some space. Step 2, complete the square. Abby says +9. Abby, what else should I do with that 9? -9 on the back. Now we factor it. Nicely done. We have x minus 3 squared. 5 minus 9 is -4. What is the vertex of that? 3, -4. Okay, so let's try 2 more. We'll do 4 and 5, but they're now this time we're going to do the same thing, but you might have to use your calculator to square the number. Okay. we put parentheses around the first two terms and leave some space. What is a little different about this one? There's nothing over there, so we're still going to subtract it off the back, but it's just going to be subtracted off the back. It's like a 0, okay? What's half of 5? Now what do I have to do with 2.5? Okay? Okay. So I'm going to add 6.25 here. And then what else? Subtract it here. Now if you forget, like, crap, what does it factor into? You got to think. What times itself gives you 6.25? What did we do to get the 6.25? Squared 2.5. So what does this factor into? X plus. Nicely done. That is its vertex form. And the vertex would be okay. I'm hoping you're getting the hang of it now, but let's try one more, okay? What do I do first? Put a parentheses and leave some space. Okay. Bobby, what do I do next? I can't factor it yet because there's some space there. Awesome. Half of -7. And then I square it. I got 12.25. Okay. So Anthony, what am I going to do with that 12.25? Okay. Now I can factor it. Okay. And so how would I factor x squared minus 7x plus 12.25? Yep. Because when I took half, it was negative. Okay, so x minus, nice, 3.5 squared. And what is 6 minus 12.25? Negative 6.25. Okay, so the vertex would be all right, so